Vice President JD Vance is back here in the U.S. after wrapping up 18 hours of talks with Iran. He says the Iranians have agreed to allow nuclear inspectors back into the country, but Tehran maintains it made no new commitments on inspections. The U.S. has also agreed to temporarily waive oil sanctions on Iran. The Strait of Hormuz remains a point of contention. Iran's top negotiator told Iranian state media Tehran hopes to manage the strait. But yesterday, President Trump says the U.S. has total control over the waterway. Mr. Trump was also asked if he'd be willing to strike Iran again, despite it having potential negative impacts on the U.S. economy. Listen to his response.
Nuclear weapon supersedes depression. Depression's real bad. Nuclear weapon will cause depression much more quickly. I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. That's a president I don't want to be, because he was in charge during the Great Depression.
And CBS News was first to report President Trump is scheduled to meet with defense contractors tomorrow. This comes as the Pentagon asks Congress for $80 billion additional dollars for the war. CBS News White House reporter Aaron Navarro kicks off our hour from our Washington bureau. Joins us now. Aaron, good morning. What else is the White House saying about the status of these talks and what it will lead to?
Well, good morning, Errol. You're seeing the White House and Vice President Vance in particular downplay these public contradictions that we've seen throughout this effort to get the deal done from Iran. The latest example of this is Iran saying there were no plans for nuclear inspectors to come in, and then maintaining that they will be the ones that have control over the strait and that it will not return to pre-war conditions. Vance said yesterday that Iran's words should not be taken at face value. And it's what they actually do, how they comply with the memorandum of understanding that was reached, that matters most. Take a listen to what he said yesterday.
You can't trust anybody's words. You have to trust what they actually do. Letting in the inspectors is a big deal, but again, we're going to see what they actually let the inspectors do once they're in the country. That's going to continually be a part of our negotiation. So my point is not that I trust or distrust anybody. My point is that I trust actions.
We know that Secretary of State Marco Rubio will also be heading to meet with allies in the Middle East today, and the State Department said that the Memorandum of Understanding, the Strait, are topics that will be discussed. Now, both Vance and President Trump talked yesterday about an approval method for Iran's frozen assets that would involve Qatar and the U.S. having power over what those funds could be used for should they be unfrozen. The White House says it'll be used to buy American agricultural goods, corn, soybeans, and wheat for Iranians. And President Trump said he'd already been fielding calls from farmers about this. But a spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry said Tehran would just spend its funds as it sees fit and doesn't believe that they have any restrictions on how they should use those unfrozen assets.
And Aaron, we mentioned a moment ago the Pentagon is asking for more money for this war. Why so if the administration is discussing peace plans with Iran?
Yeah, $80 billion in total, which is primarily framed as funding to help resupply the munition stock in the United States. We've seen Senate Majority Leader John Thune signal some support for this funding, saying that munitions have been depleted by the war in Iran, as well as by the U.S. aiding Ukraine in their war with Russia. And he said he'd see where the votes are when that budget ask is officially in. Democrats in Congress are unlikely to support this request, as they still have questions on what the total cost for the war with Iran has been. The Pentagon said in mid-May the estimated operational cost for the war was about $29 billion. And you've also seen President Trump float the possibility of more military strikes in Iran should this peace process fall through.
All right, Aaron Navarro in our D.C. bureau. Aaron, thank you. Let's jump to CBS News senior foreign correspondent Holly Williams. She continues her reporting from Beirut. Holly, good morning. So what is Iran saying right now about the terms of these talks and the path ahead?
Good morning, Errol. Well, following those talks in Switzerland, Vice President Vance trumpeted what he called a, quote, major milestone for the American people. That is, he said that Iran had agreed to allow United Nations inspectors to visit Iran's nuclear sites. Vance also said it was the first step to permanently ending a nuclear weapons program in Iran. Now, as you know, Errol, Iran has always denied that it actually has a nuclear weapons program. but it does have a nuclear program. Following the talks in Switzerland, a spokesman for Iran's foreign ministry said that his country had actually made no new commitments to nuclear inspections and that there were no visits scheduled by the UN's nuclear watchdog. So, Errol, as usual, we're getting two different versions of events from American and Iranian officials, or maybe, I don't know, two different analyses of the same events. Just a reminder that there were inspections of Iran's nuclear sites under the nuclear deal negotiated during the Obama administration. Iran then limited those inspections after the US withdrew from that agreement during the first Trump administration, and Iran then blocked inspections after the US bombed Iran's nuclear sites last year. It's thought that Iran has a stockpile of around 1,000 pounds of uranium enriched to 60%. Now, when it comes to negotiating with Iran over its nuclear program, many people that we've spoken to in this region fear that Iran may actually have been encouraged to pursue nuclear weapons more quickly by the war with the US. And Iran is now also armed itself, if you will, in any negotiations with a powerful bargaining chip, because it's shown that it is able to effectively paralyze oil shipping through the Strait of Hormuz.
Those are some sticking points, Holly. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah is another one. That's something our Ed O'Keefe asked President Trump about yesterday in the Oval Office. Let's just show that exchange.
The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his forces are not leaving Lebanon. That is a sticking point.
Who did he tell that to you?
He said it publicly in Israel.
Well, we're going to take a look at it.
Well, what would you do to make sure that he doesn't
Well, I'm not going to
sabotage the
tell you
deal?
what I'm going to do, but it gets solved. I'm a problem solver. I get problems solved real fast, including with Bibi.
Interesting. Holly, what do you make of that? And what do we know about efforts to end fighting between Israel and Hezbollah?
Well, Errol, there are actually talks today between Israel and Lebanon, but negotiations so far have not resulted in a sort of lasting ceasefire. The conflict between the Hezbollah militant group and Israel may actually be the biggest stumbling block to doing a deal with Iran, because the Iranian regime has made it clear that it will not sign up to any peace deal as long as the fighting continues between Israel and Hezbollah. Now, Israel and Hezbollah, as you know, are long-standing enemies, but the conflict reignited back in March after the US war with Iran began. And that is not at all surprising, because Hezbollah, which is designated a terrorist organization by the US, is backed and funded by Iran. There are very clearly frustrations about this war inside the Trump administration. Last week, President Trump even issued a rare criticism of Israel and its actions in Lebanon, saying, quote, "When two drones are shot into the desert and drop harmlessly, you don't have to knock down buildings in Beirut. They could behave better, and frankly, they could do a better job."
All right. Holly Williams, live for us in Beirut. Holly, thank you.